All right, people. Review of the week time. So let's start with the weekend's action. We're going to be here for the good 20 to 25 minutes. So let's get the fights out of the way. I saw most of the fights. I didn't. Do you know what's funny, right? The prelims went by like that. I only caught the end of Sam Noakes' fight. I didn't even see the knockout. But I did see Owen Cooper, Chris Congo. Decent performance by Owen Cooper. Chris Congo is a nightmare at domestic level for anybody. He really is. I remember the first time I had a really good look at him was on Fight Camp when he fought Luther Clay, and I thought at the time, oh my God, this guy is going to be again a nightmare for anyone at domestic level, and as such is the case. I kind of faded in and out of the Liam Davis, Ezra Taylor fights, respectively. They didn't fight one another, of course. The main one on that was Lee Wood, Anthony Cacace. Now, going into that fight, I was saying Anthony Cacace to win the fight. I think I might have said by stoppage or point, I'm not 100% sure. But I was favouring Cacace quite heavily going into the fight. And I said at their best, I probably would take Lee Wood at both guys' respective bests. But although they're both 36 years old, which again, for a 130 pounder, I mean, that's really no spring chicken to say the least. Really isn't. But Cacace just seemed the fresher of the two. He's had a more stop-start career than Lee Wood, although Lee Wood has not had the easiest career himself. I mean, he languished at domestic level for many, many years. He's been able to make that transition, make that jump to world level, as has Anthony Cacace, but it's just taken him a little bit longer to get there. And therefore, he's not had the wear and tear. And his fights at world level have been resounding victories. You know, he beat Josh Warrington pretty clearly, didn't take any real punishment in that fight. Lee Wood didn't necessarily take any punishment in that fight, but just made to look ordinary at times by Josh Warrington before he ultimately took him out. Got off the canvas to beat Michael Connolly. That was a really tough fight, but a great fight. It was a really tough fight. And obviously he was knocked out by Mauricio Lara, avenged that knockout defeat in the rematch. Whereas Cacace, Joe Cordina, straightforward win. As I said, Josh Warrington, likewise. And now this, he was in control. Steve Gray, I don't know. I don't know what to say about his scorecard. Thank God it didn't affect the result, but it still needs to be looked at. We shouldn't just give him a pass because, it doesn't matter, it was a knockout win for Cacace anyway. It doesn't matter. We need to know what the hell he was smoking or drinking or both watching that fight. So that was the card in Nottingham. Big talking point with Emmanuel Navarrete over in the States. Now, I haven't had a chance to really go and watch the fight in depth, but I have seen the ending because there's a lot of controversy about it. He won this fight on a technical decision. It was deemed a clash of heads, which clearly to me looks like a punch was landed, which caused the cut. But with A-side fighters, I mean, we've seen this in the past. Referees are very reluctant to call a fight with an A-side fighter on cuts. Very reluctant. And sometimes if they can get away with it, I'm not saying this was the case, by the way. I'm not saying that in the slightest. So just don't misconstrue what I'm saying. But a lot of times they're so conditioned. I think that's the problem. They're conditioned referees to just, accidental clash of heads, that's what caused it. No, not necessarily. Sometimes it genuinely is a punch that lands that causes a cut. And the way the gloves are, like, there's certain ways if you hit someone with the glove, with the way it kind of pulls back, it could easily, like a knife, just dice you. And the cut caused, and then, it's a punch. It's legit. So if they have to call the fight, it goes down as a TKO loss. Whether you're the away fighter or a home fighter, it goes down as a TKO loss. A lot of referees were looking to do that. If it is ruled a punch, Tyson Fury out of a lane spring to mind. Even Klitschko versus Lewis. I mean, that fight was, and people act as though that was controversial. I mean, honestly, like, go and look up Vitaly Klitschko's face post-fight, and you tell me if that was controversial. It wasn't. The only kind of main point of contention in the fight, I remember George Foreman, who was RIP, who was commentating on that fight for HBO, was surprised that the referee actually let it go as long as he did, because that could start after round number 3. The fight stopped after 7 rounds. 7 rounds, I believe it was. I think it was stopped after the end of the 7th round, definitely. I think one or the other. It was either the 6th or the 7th. Or I think it was stopped after 6 and they were going into the 7th, one or the other. I haven't seen that fight in a while. But yeah, they are reluctant to stop it, and this was a mistake, I believe. I've heard rumours that they're going to be making it a no contest. They should just order immediate rematch. Make it a no contest, order immediate rematch is what I would be saying on that. A fight that also took place over the weekend was Tommy Fury. Good old Tommy Fury. He made his return to the ring. And I'm not even going to talk about his performance. I did that in a video, which did really well. I thought that video would do well, but I mean, it's pushing 20k views, so I suppose I didn't think, I thought if I get close to 10k, I'd be doing well. Nearly 20, brilliant. Delighted with that. Yeah, look, Tommy Fury, someone put down, I forget who it was actually now, I recognise the name all right, but he said that for Fury to be pro, 7 years and still fighting 6 rounders? I mean, what do you say about that? I mean, you've Ben Whitaker, who's pro, 2 years? 2 years thereabouts, 2, 3 years, and he's fighting 10 rounders. Might be going 10 rounds, but he's fighting scheduled 10 rounders. They're both, well, Tommy Fury is apparently a light heavyweight. I don't know if he'll ever fight light heavyweight now. And I think Tommy Fury knows damn well, his team know damn well. And I seen Joe Stunner Boxing actually make a very good question, very good argument as well. John Fury, who we'll talk about now in a sec, best believe we'll be talking about him, who is so critical of Sugar Hill Stewart. He's been training Tommy Fury for the longest time, and I have seen no progression, only regression with this guy. This guy's going life and death with YouTubers. Seriously, this guy's been pro for years, and he's going life and death with YouTubers. He's fighting unknown guys in Hungary, and they're, you don't go over there because you're thinking this is where I'm going to get the real, tried and tested journeyman. No, you're thinking this is where I'm going to get a knockout. Prince Patel, who, was a Frank Warren fighter back in the day, he couldn't knock out a you-know-what when he was fighting just UK-based journeymen on Queensbury shows. All of a sudden, he's knocking everyone out because he's fighting over in Hungary all the time, because he's hitting them and they fall. So that's what you go over there for. And that's what Tommy Fury is doing. So, yeah, look, he's mentioned Jake Paul. I mean, he said Jake Paul's running scared. I mean, Jake Paul never pulled out with their respective fight in 2021. I think there might have been another pullout as well, but certainly there was one in 2021. And I think it was going to happen in December time. He ended up fighting Wardley again, where he got that big knockout. So, yeah, look, I think that Tommy Fury, Jake Paul, is probably the road to go down. Jake Paul is fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He should win that fight, because Chavez Jr. is an absolute F-up if ever I've seen one. And, yeah, if he beats him, then he could say he's beaten the former world champion, and then they can do the fight. I think Tommy Fury is in for a rude awakening when he fights Jake Paul this time, because, again, I could be critical of Jake Paul, and I was for the Mike Tyson fight. That was a disgrace in every aspect. That whole event was just a farce. But at the end of the day, when you take that out of the equation, he is still trying to do things in the sport of boxing. Whereas Tommy Fury, it's like, what can I do that makes me famous? And okay, if there's nothing going, I'll have a fight. And then I'll mention Jake Paul, and then I'll go and do whatever the hell it is that I do again. And, get attention on Sky News, maybe, break up with Molly May again and get back together, because Sky News, in their infinite wisdom, report on that, because that's really what the people want to know when it comes to the news. But yeah, that was my thoughts on the performance. If he fights Jake Paul again, I'd make Jake Paul favourite. I think Jake Paul has improved, Fury hasn't. And yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole weekend's boxing. In terms of John Fury, he's obviously back. Well, I say back because Tommy Fury is back. He's back giving interviews. He gave one with seconds out. And of course, pushing a narrative that Alexander Usyk was gifted. I was going to say robbed, gifted those 2 decisions against Tyson Fury, and that Tyson Fury should have won because he brings more money to the table, because that's how boxing works, isn't it? You don't score the fight objectively based on who you think will win. You score the fights based on who you think will bring more money to the table. Some would argue maybe that is the way it is, but for the most part it shouldn't be, and it's not. And John Fury can say whatever he wants, saying, Fury, he drew the 10th round and he won the 11th. No, he didn't. You go back and watch that fight. He didn't draw the 10th round. He lost that round. He lost the 11th round as well in the first fight. So, John Fury, damage and limitations. At the end of the day, John Fury, he is someone who, I think for the most part, people have they might watch it to be amused slightly, his interviews, but then they just turn off very, very quickly. And that's kind of the way it is with John Fury. He's part of the Fury PR team, what can you say? And he's trying to get back into Tyson's good books. He obviously wasn't in the camp for the rematch with Alexander Usyk, and he feels that's the reason why Tyson didn't perform as well. Now, maybe the reason he didn't perform as well is because just Alexander Usyk is that good, It's remarkable, really, because it's not just John Fury. I mean, the likes of Simon Jordan, amongst others, who refuse to give Alexander Usyk the credit he deserves for being a, quite simply, brilliant fighter. If Alexander Usyk beats Fury, it's because, well, maybe Fury wasn't that good, or maybe he's just aged, It's never a case of maybe Alexander Usyk is just that good. I mean, you've Simon Jordan, who's picking Daniel Dubois to beat Alexander Usyk in spite of the fact that the first fight wasn't even close, wasn't even competitive. It's remarkable, really, the way, and listen, I know people are going to say, it's UK bias, whatever, but it's the fact that they offer, like, these are people who are in positions where, they are being paid umpteens of thousands of quid every single month to be given, good opinions that you can follow, and it's literally like, why does he win? Oh, because he's British. Okay, that's brilliant. I mean, Jesus Christ, Jesus, I'm wasting my time doing YouTube videos if it's that easy. I should just go and say TalkSport, and I'll just say, I'll pick every single fighter who, is from London or something like that, sort of way. So that's what I got to say on that. John Fury's interview was what it was. In terms of any of the other news, I did see this, Everything Boxing, shout out to them, is where I get most of my boxing news from. Anthony Yarde, Callum Smith is possible for August. The reports are that we're going to see Matchroom versus Queensberry 5v5 part 2 in August, and that will be one of the fights penciled in, which is a fight I absolutely love. I think Anthony Yarde, Callum Smith has the potential to be fireworks. I think that it's probably, when I look at Anthony Yarde's career now, where he's at, if you take the Buatsi fight, I think had Buatsi had beaten Smith, of course you would have done that fight. That loss has put, I think it's knocked the zest out of that fight, Yarde versus Buatsi. So I think this fight is great. I would probably make Callum Smith the favourite. I would. I think he's got way more left in the tank than I myself gave him credit for. So yeah, I would like to see that fight. In terms of Matchroom Queensberry, the 5v5, I'm struggling to think who you would actually get for Matchroom Queensberry, at this stage, because you'd want to put some heavyweights on there. Johnny Fisher's fighting this weekend. Would he be ready? Depending on how tough the Dave Allen fight potentially could be by August, and then I'm struggling a little bit with Matchroom Queensberry 2. I am struggling a little bit with that, just to purely see who you could actually get, that sort of way. So there is that. In terms of some of the other news we have here, we have the Ring Magazine, who July the 19th are saying is shaping up to be an incredible day of boxing. Yeah, it's looking like we're going to get Bam Rodriguez, we're going to get Usyk versus Dubois 2, we're going to get Sebastian Fondora, Tim Tszyu, the rematch, which is a good rematch. I mean, the first fight was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I love watching Sebastian Fondora and Tim Tszyu. Keith Thurman will have to obviously wait his turn, I should say. But there's one fight there that really grinds my gears, poised for July the 19th, and that's Manny Pacquiao. Yes, Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barros. That will be for the WBC welterweight title. Manny Pacquiao last fought in 2021. He lost to Yordenis Ugas quite soundly as well. He was beaten soundly by Yordenis Ugas. He's not fought since then, and he should not, under any circumstances, be allowed to just come in, jump a big queue, and go and fight for a world title. That is absolutely disgraceful by the WBC. It's disgraceful carry on. What is the point in having a ranking system? What is the point in any of this if someone can be retired for 4 years, jump a queue, and get an immediate crack against your champion? It's just the WBC doing what they so often do. And I've said this once with the WBC, and I'll say it again, right? You're a sanctioning body, okay? You obviously want fighters to fight for your respective title because you get sanctioning fees, and obviously you get, the fighters with the WBC, this, that, and the other. You are literally, by doing these sorts of things, not calling mandatories for 2 years, giving inactive fighters instant cracks at world title, allowing them to jump the queue. For people who have been fighting in WBC sanctioned bouts and trying to get their shot, doing that is going to make fighters not want to fight for your organization. It's going to make them not want to fight for your titles, whether it be world titles, whether it be silver, these little trinket belts. All you're doing is hurting yourself in the process. That's literally all you're doing. Canelo's not going to be around forever. Manny Pacquiao, Tyson Fury, etc., etc. They're not going to be around forever. And the next crop of fighters are just going to, I guarantee you're going to look at the BBC and thinking, F that, I don't want to fight for these guys. It's a joke of an organization. And they are becoming that. They really, truly are. They're becoming an absolute joke of an organization. Really are. In terms of other people, so Canelo Alvarez, Chris Eubank Jr. has mentioned Canelo Alvarez as one of the potential opponents he wants to face, but he's also mentioned the possibility of a Billy Joe Saunders rematch. Yes, he has. And the Billy Joe Saunders rematch, to me, is an interesting one. I have to say, it is an interesting one to me, because Billy Joe Saunders has talked about potentially coming back in September time with Frank Warren. He's talked about coming back at potentially 175 pounds. Now, if he does, right, there's no way he could jump into it. He says whatever he wants to say. Oh, I can jump into a rematch with Eubank. He couldn't, right? So Billy Joe will likely need a comeback fight to see where he's at. And as I said in the video I did about him today, I think people are going to be quite surprised as to how poor he... If your last memory of Billy Joe is of him in, say, the Martin Murray or the Canelo fight, which are his two most recent performances, and again, they're a long time ago now. If that's your memory of a guy who was fleet of foot, a good mover, never was the biggest puncher was Saunders, to be fair, it's never something he really had. He had respectable power. I mean, you wouldn't walk straight through him, certainly not. But if your memory is of him in the Canelo fight or the fight with Martin Murray, yeah, good luck with that. He won't be anything like that. Again, people like to say that Chris Eubank Jr. has regressed as a fighter and he's kind of coming near the end, and I agree. I don't think that him being a middleweight helps, but I think even if he was a super middleweight, we would still see we'd probably see a more improved Eubank than we did against Conor Benn, but we'd still see a Eubank who is not what he was 6-7 years ago. How could he be, But I think he's still got way more left in the tank than Billy Joe does at this point. So if they did do that rematch, and it makes sense from a financial point of view, it's a sellable fight. Eubank Jr.'s stock is high. Billy Joe is it's a weird one because Eubank was always the villain, but now it would be the roles reversed. It would be good guy versus bad guy because Billy Joe would go in, he would relish it being the bad guy, and Chris Eubank would go in as the kind of the guy everyone wants to see win. I think you'd have a field day with Billy Joe at this point in Billy Joe's respective career, I really do, and I think it would be nothing more than a cash grab for Frank Warren, Billy Joe, and everyone involved. I don't know. I think it's probably still more a fight I would tune into. As good as the Ben Eubank Jr. fight was, I think it's still probably a fight I'd tune into quicker than seeing a rematch with both guys, to be honest with you. I really would. Now, this is a strange one. So, Anthony Joshua, about a week or so ago, was saying that people inside his team anyway were saying that he needed surgery, that he had an issue with his elbow, and that was going to keep him out of training for a little while. But no sooner as he said that we see him sparring Lawrence Okoli. This was earlier this week, but it does have me kind of wondering, okay, that's 1 minute he's not training and now he is. So which is it? Is he training? Is he not training? It's a really interesting one. Now, Anthony Joshua has said he will be back this year. Tyson Fury is, without announcing it, he hasn't said anything yet, but I imagine any day now we are going to hear that he's training for the comeback. He's already mentioned that he wants to fight Usyk again, and Alexander Usyk has said that he wants to do either Joshua or Fury as his final fight, which I think for me, if you're not... He was really talking about going and having a gimmick fight as his last fight, but now he wants to do this. Well, no. I mean, the best way to leave your legacy would be to go and face a contender. Face Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker's going to be waiting for his title shot, so if you beat Daniel Dubois, fight Joseph Parker. It's different, For me, you can't... if you think about it like this, Alexander Usyk has only, with the exception of Shez Witherspoon in 2019, he's only fought British heavyweights in the last 5 years. And he's rematched a lot of them, apart from Chisora. Just move on, man. Just seriously. Even if you beat Dubois, you've got nothing else to prove. We don't have anything else to prove now. Just move on. I don't understand it. Why you want a trilogy fight with Fury or Joshua? It's like there's no controversy in either of those fights, in spite of what Fury may say. There's no controversy in any of them. It's just and the allure of those fights is not what it was. No one wants to see those trilogy fights. They just don't want to do it. So that's what I have to say on that. I think there's one other thing I want to finish on before I finish up here, is that we obviously got the announcement a week or so ago that obviously Jarrell Miller is pulled out of his scheduled fight with Pacquiao Wardley. That was going to be in Portman Road, Ipswich Town Stadium on June the 7th. Now, I, for one, was looking forward to that fight really, really, really. I thought it was going to be epic. I thought it was going to be good fun. You had Jarrell Miller with the Norwich t-shirt. He was riling everyone up. Miller would have put butts on seats because people wanted to see him lose. Now he's got Justis Huni, who in terms of personality and in terms of fighting style is the absolute antagonist to what Jarrell Miller is. He is the complete polar opposite. He really truly is. He's not much of a trash talker. His style, I've watched Justis Huni plenty of fights, and I've only ever, I think, covered one or two of them. I've even covered any of them, actually. I'm pretty sure I have probably done one, but he's not the most entertaining fighter in the world. I've never been impressed with him. And yeah, they're having their press conference on Wednesday. So their press conference is Wednesday, the 14th of May, just to kind of get us familiarised with just the Sunni, essentially, because he will be fairly unknown to the UK fans. I'm worried about this show. No, I say worried about it. I'm not worried about it, but it's certainly lacking in comparison to what it was when this fight was announced. Even before the press conference, I was like, "Oh my god, this fight's going to be epic." This right now has lost a lot of its allure. It really has. Now, maybe after this press conference on Wednesday, it will gain some of it. I don't know. It may very well do that, but I'm still looking at this thinking, probably not going to be necessarily what I was originally expecting. And I think that's going to knock a little bit of zest off this fight, quite frankly. And I think that's pretty much it for Review of the Week. So, if nothing else, and I don't think there really is, I will leave it there. As always, people, I hope to God you enjoyed the video. It's been a fun last couple of weeks. Obviously, at A&G, man, going very, very strong. We're doing some good stuff there. Enjoying myself over here in London. I've had actually a crazy last couple of days. I don't think there's been a day since probably Wednesday was the only day this week that I've had just to come home and do nothing, essentially. Every other day it's been something, doing something, this, that, the other. So it's been good fun. I have some stuff with the Ring magazine, coming up, videos that I'm getting ready to do this week for them. And we're waiting to hear, there could be something in the pipeline there as well. Let's wait and see on that one. But yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up. Thank you so much for locking in, tuning in. I hope you all have a great week. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. Until next time, people, which will probably be some point Monday evening. I'll try and get a video out if there's any news breaking or anything that's piquing my interest. I will definitely do a video on that. But for now, I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Peace.